Welcome back. We're winding up our TCVM Focus Week with my favorite traditional Chinese veterinary medicine topic, which is food therapy. So, what is food therapy? Food therapy is choosing ingredients in the diet of your pet, yourself, livestock, whatever, to have an impact on the health and well-being of the individual. That means choosing ingredients that are going to help rebalance a body that is out of balance or keep a body in balance that is currently balanced. So we use different tools to tell us whether our pet is in balance. First of all, if there is any state of disease, then we have an imbalance that we need to fix. So we can look at our food from a lot of different directions. We can look at the energetics of the food. So that means, is that food energetically going to be warming to the body? Is it going to be cooling to the body? Or is it going to be pretty neutral? So we could kind of use it going in either direction. And then we have to look at our pet or the person, whoever the individual is, and say, okay, is this individual too hot or too cold or out of balance? How are they out of balance? And then how do we choose energetically the right food ingredients to bring about that balance that we're looking for? But not only do we look at the energetics of the food as far as whether it's going to be warming or cooling or hot or cold, we look at how the food is prepared, we look at how the ingredients are grown, because all of those things can have an effect. We look at the taste. Is it pungent, salty, sweet, bitter? And those things are also going to have an effect on different organ systems within the body. And those organ systems that are being most affected very oftenly are affected by the underlying personality of the pet or the person. And all of that sounds like a lot that has to go into this. And frankly, food therapy for me was sort of the tipping point in treating my patients and my own animals, and being able to keep them in that balanced state that we need them to be in, and also taking them from that state of disease and bringing them back into the area of balance where we need them to be. Food, for me, is pivotal. It is the foundation. You cannot build a solid house with a weak foundation. And one of my other favorite sayings is that you cannot out-supplement a bad diet. So if you have a pet who is eating a very poor quality food made with rendered, contaminated, adulterated ingredients, and they have allergies or IBD or arthritis, pancreatitis, other inflammatory problems, it doesn't matter how many supplements you buy, it doesn't matter how many herbs you add, you are not going to solve the problem if we don't have that good foundation of high quality food, but also food that is chosen to balance the imbalances that we're seeing. So if we have an animal with a lot of inflammatory problems, they're going to have a lot of internal heat in their body. They might be panting. They might have red ears. They might have red eyes. They might be drinking a lot. All the supplements in the world, if we don't have the correct diet, are not going to solve that problem. And that is why food is so critical, because we have to figure out, what does this animal need as their foundation? And then we can build from that. So we look at the tastes of the food. We look at the actions of the food. For instance, we have foods that are natural diuretics, means it's going to draw fluid out of the body and make you pee more. Well, if we have an animal who has a fluid buildup in the abdomen or in heart failure with fluid buildup in the chest, yes, we want them to pee more. We could give them Lasix, which is a diuretic, or we could say, hey, I'm going to give them some of these foods that are going to help them draw some of that fluid out and pee it out the other end. if we have animals with snotty nose, sinusitis, phlegmy cough, well, yeah, we can give them a bunch of medications that may have some side effects, but we also could choose foods that help resolve stagnation and dissolve phlegm. Phlegm is basically mucus or snot, and so we need to dissolve that. We need to take that thick, icky discharge, and we need to make it a thin, watery discharge, and then we need the problem to go away. And so we take them through those steps of moving from thick, sticky substance, less thick, watery, and then it's gone. And for instance, the heart failure animals, by using the food therapy to help get rid of that fluid accumulation, to help strengthen chi or energy, foods that are energy boosters that cause, food or herbs that cause a stronger contraction of the heart. We can take that animal who is in active heart failure and move them back a step and put them back into, okay, yes, I've got some chronic heart disease, but I am not actively in failure. Sometimes, yes, we need to add drugs to these problems, but a lot of times, just by using good foundational foods directed at where the problem is, and then if that's not enough on its own, adding herbs, which are super concentrated, we can get to where we need to be to bring that animal back into balance. And frankly, the earlier we start in their life trying to keep them balanced and not allow them to move to that state of imbalance and disease, the easier it is to do. So we want to start early with these guys. So that can sound like it's really complicated, and it can sound like there's no way I could do that. But it actually can be pretty simple. So we've got some tools that you can use that are on the website. We've got the pet personality profile, so you can go through and tick the little boxes to try to figure out what your pet's underlying TCVM personality is. That personality is going to correspond with one of the 5 Chinese elements: fire, earth, water, wood, and metal. So once you figure that out, you can look at, well, if my pet is out of balance in its element, then these are the disease problems that might just show up. And so how do I use food to keep that from showing up? How do I use food to keep that element in balance? I'll give you a quick example. Me personally, I am a wood personality. Wood personalities are alpha. They like to be in charge. When they get angry, they get really angry and they tend to explode. And sometimes they explode without a whole lot of provocation. It might be like you just said the wrong thing or just happened to tick me off, and then it's like this big volcano. So I've seen it in a lot of my patients. A lot of German Shepherds or Rottweilers would come in the office. They're very commonly wood personalities, and they're just standing there watching. They're watching and really paying attention to what's going on. I tend to talk with my hands, and then I make a move toward them and say, okay, we're going to go get some blood from them now. And they go, I don't think so. And that's when they lunge and take off the hand that's pointing at them. So you learn how to work with your patients when you know these things. So the wood element is kept in check by the metal element. So it's an easy one to remember. A growing tree is wood, and metal would be the axe that chops down the tree. So because I am such a strong wood personality, the metal element has been working really hard for many, many decades to try to keep my tree from being overgrown, because it tends to be very overwhelming. Well, now, where do I have a deficiency? I have deficiencies in my metal element. Gray hair, thinning hair, because that is ruled by metal. So my metal has been working so hard all these years that it's gotten weak. So now what do I have to do? I have to support my metal element because I made it weak by having it out of balance. So those are the kinds of things that we look at, and we can see all those things in our animals, no matter what their element is. So I have made a course on TCVM food therapy so that you can get a little more comfortable with trying to figure out, is your animal hot? Is your animal cold? What personality is your animal? Where are they out of balance? And how would you need to feed to bring them back into balance? So it can be really, really powerful just by changing what's in the bowl or on the platter for cats or dogs. I find cats tend to be less extreme in their imbalances than dogs do. But this basically holds for any animal: horses, donkeys, birds, cats, whatever, us. So it's really powerful stuff. I think it's really fun to play with. I love experimenting with food in my kitchen. My dogs are really happy to experiment with food that I experiment with in my kitchen. They don't mind. The cats are kind of like, yeah, I'll think about it. Anyway, but food therapy is really fun. That's kind of the basis of how it works. If you have any interest in that at all, I would strongly recommend diving a little deeper because it's really fun. And remember that we do have the Constitution's diets, which are the 5 elements. The recipes are on our website, but they're already pre-made for you by All Provide, so you can order from them if you've figured out which element it is that your pet is needing.